me see if I.
she was like, "Yo, I never knew what Donique looked like," um, and I was like, "Don't get any ideas." All
Go
right.
ahead. Cool.
Hey folks, Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, AncestryLands.com. Listen, man, we're back bigger, better than ever. And again, you guys know who it is. I have a special guest, Don Coombs here. Yo, we talked about, do you feel that in our environment today, convenience is something that we choose over really, it's kind of like choosing the easy route or the hard route, in a way. Or it's staying in your comfort zone and getting outside your comfort zone. You see all these videos talk about comfort zone, but I don't know if they're always talking about necessarily just the feeling of comfort as opposed to what that tangibly means. What do you think?
I think a word that we might want to interject into the conversation is agile. The ability to move in space.
Hope you're listening, folks.
If I just took computer applications as a template, think about all the advancements that are happening daily. Every app is being uploaded with a new capability. There are billions of apps that you can use. There are apps that haven't even been created yet. There's someone's intellectual capital at this point. You would have to be very agile in that sort of environment. When you think of all the things that actually help your phone work, satellites, engineers, programmers, content creators, right? Because you like an app because there are content creators, right? Something to watch. There's a program available that might strike your interest. So you have to be agile. When we were in school, they told us you're going to need an education because when you get into the labor force, you're going to be required to have a degree. I think a lot of people leave college and possibly find out that the degree that they hold is no longer holding their interests. They are then struck with the idea of, well, you know what? I should go back to learn.
Come on, let's register.
And try to tailor my interests to my passions, right? Because I think the difference there is, well, how much money do I want to make? And then will I be happy making X amount of dollars, right? So in order to, I think, find the balance, you have to be agile because you can only deal with the situation that's in front of you, right? We had the old football rule, head up to outside. That's how you dealt with the threats, right? Ultimately, the goal was to score. So we all had a contingency plan. If something went wrong, head up to outside. What did you do? A fail-safe. And I think being agile in today's environment is the best thing that you can do. Because with the advance of the internet, everyone's ideas now matter. Everyone can bring their idea to the forefront and have it be brought to market. Resources are now becoming more readily available. There was a time if you were a music artist, you had to go through a company, get signed. It was artist development. Then there was touring. That was quite a bit. Now, a young entrepreneur talent can take their phone that their parent is paying for and create content in their room and create a career, right? So there's a real initiative there to be self-propelled. So I guess distance can be short or long. I think your desire for information plateaus and then grows. I don't think you can actually stay stagnant in your thought because everything is changing around you. I grew up in the inner city of New York City, and a lot of career days were filled with civil service jobs. And when you get out of college and you look at some of the salaries, you start to wonder if those jobs are for you. So you have to definitely make some decisions that are going to make you disciplined, because no matter what job you pick in civil service, you're probably trying to earn a pension of sorts. So that's going to take a measure of discipline. You're going to have to be a great employee for 20 years. You know, and there's a distance.
Right.
So when you look at agility in a place like New York City, you would want to have a more diverse career day, right? To help all the young minds understand all the possibilities that the city holds. So they would be more agile in their decision making. Because when you're only presented with 3 or 4 options, you could assume that maybe those are the best 4 options or the only. So I think agility is the word that I would like to interject to accompany the measure of discipline.
Write that down, write that down!
One thing I'll give people a great example of this is I'll use the example of nurses and teachers. A school teacher can also teach in a classroom. They can teach privately, one-on-one lessons, as a tutor. They have one degree that allows them to do the same profession in multiple modalities. So just if you're like the college student, if you're choosing a career path, when we talk about, the same discipline in that agility is being able to move from the classroom to, you can now virtually teach. You can be a virtual teacher. You can teach English as a second language. My brother's a teacher, so you want to be able to do something that you can switch the mode. No more than you're switching a video game. If you're playing on a video game console, you want to be able to be, when he's talking about that agile, that agility, you want to be able to switch seamlessly. So if a career path or a roadway for you is blocked, you have the ability to not go all the way back to the beginning where you started to begin a new path. You literally can just shift into another lane and continue forward. That is what he's explaining so much and about that agility and how that translates into things in life. From my own personal experience being a nurse, I've done home care, I've worked in hospitals, I've done flu shots, I've been a travel nurse. So again, this is off the same degree without the need of going back for further education. So that's a little example of agility. It doesn't mean you need to be those 2 professions, but you got to think, like Don is saying, in a little bit more of multi-steps and how you can switch. Because we're both family men. You don't have the time to go back and go through 4 years of, day in and day out schooling. You want to think about that up front.
Yeah, and the old cliche of hindsight is 20/20. And
let me ask you a question moving forward. So can we are identifying things that one's mindset should have, or things to keep in mind. What are let's talk the solutions now. What are things that people can say, okay, discipline, you talked about going further in time, you talked about that. Give me something I can walk away with and put in my mind of, how do I do this moving forward? What's the 1 + 1 is 2 solution? And don't give me algebra, give me basic math. So the 18-year-old mind, I think a lot of times we talk as 40, 50 and 60-year-olds, not that Don and I are that old, but we tend to talk from a very high level. How do we give the younger generation, our listeners that are talking, and they're looking for, what's my first step 1? How do I get the first step 1 of discipline? How do I get the first step 1 of agility? Your thoughts, Don?
The word that comes to mind, decision. The minute you make the decision, you are off on your journey. And although that seems somewhat implied, the decision is the thought, is the electricity to the the journey. If you don't necessarily repeat that to yourself and loop it, you may not have the steam to continue to go on, because it's that message, it's that billboard in your mind of I can do it, I can do it. Anywhere you go, you see these affirmations on the walls, whether it's in stadiums, schools, museums. These affirmations are, attempts at accountability. If I see it, I'm going to do it. It's a reminder. So I would definitely say the decision to do something is number one. You have to be clear on that, because back to the distance, if you see all the obstacles as too tall to traverse, then you're going to have to make another decision. So you have to see your decision as infallible, a real inner self-confidence as to what you can do, and not listen to the murmurs of outside distractions. It literally has to be something you loop to yourself. And from a computer standpoint, it is a command. It is a line of code to your brain, your CPU.
But I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for, emptying your mind of wisdom, from bringing the sage advice to our audience, to our listeners.
Thank you,
that
humbly.
are now international. And I hope people actually are going to take away from this, not just listen, take a moment and really reflect on what's being talked about here. You should always have a coffee cup in your hand and have your AirPods or something in your ear listening to this to hear what's being said today, because these are things you can talk to your children about. All right, folks. Well, Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands, AncestryLands.com. We are going to have Mr. Don Coombs back. Don Coombs, thank you so much for joining us. Wow.
It's a pleasure, and I'm greatly honored.
I'm going to say Ancestry Lands, folks, where you go to find property. Ancestry Lands on YouTube is where you find property, but you also find knowledge. I'm going to leave it at this state. Go to Ancestry Lands to fill up your, get your real estate, to buy property, get into ownership, and build your power base. Go to Ancestry Lands on YouTube to do that and much more. I'm going to leave it with this statement, all right? I just heard this one, and I think it's beautiful. If you think the price of success is too high, wait till you get the bill for regret. Lands, folks. Signing out. Phil Davis, your Uncle Phil. Mr. Don's got you covered. Don, knocking him out with that knowledge, baby. Ancestry Lands, and we're out.
Stay successful.